You're listening to the All Systems Go podcast, the show that teaches you everything you need to know to put your business on autopilot. Learn how to deploy automated marketing and sales systems in your business the right way with your host, the professor of automation himself and founder of Automation Bridge, Chris Davis.
Welcome to the All Systems Go podcast. I'm your host, Chris L. Davis, the founder and chief automation officer of Automation Bridge, where we focus on turning digital marketing professionals into automation service providers by teaching them marketing and sales automation. If you'd like to become one or find out more, you can visit automationbridge.com/ASP. In this episode, I want to talk about why you should or shouldn't become an automation service provider. I know it seems maybe a little counterproductive to have a podcast on why you shouldn't. And while I would love for everybody to be capable and willing, the fact of the matter is it only works for certain types of professionals and personality traits. And what I want to do is discuss both in this episode to provide a little more clarity. In my experience, I found that whenever you create a category, there's always this self-vetting that people go through. Like, oh, am I ready? Am I good enough? Is that for me? And I want to make it simple for you to make that decision. But before we get into it, if you're new to the podcast, make sure you listen to this episode in its entirety. When you're done, please make sure you subscribe and share. This one in particular is important because this is the core of why we exist at Automation Bridge, is to create automation service providers. But I want you to listen before you hit that subscribe button and before you leave that rating and review, so you can do it in an educated fashion. If you are not new to the podcast and you just haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Now is the time. Come on, join. Every Thursday we release a new episode, and I do not want you to miss. At the time of recording this episode, the All Systems podcast is free to subscribe to, and you can access this show in all of your main podcasting apps like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You can even subscribe on YouTube. All right. So your 5-star ratings and reviews are greatly appreciated. And what I want to do is I really want to piggyback off of some recent, or I should say some of my latter episodes where I mentioned, and I'll list them shortly. But let me just start out by saying automation isn't for everyone. And when I say isn't for everyone, everyone can benefit from automation, but not everybody can do automation. Okay, there are some people that make a perfect fit for it, and others who quite honestly should stay away from it. And my job has really become to really vet more than accept. Right? Because it's one of those things where you just don't want to be left out. Hey, I want to learn how to automate. Hey, I want to do this. And it's aspirational. It's good to have that feeling, but sometimes we just need to help people get back to reality and do what I like to say is stay in your lane, right? Stay in the lane that allows you to operate at the highest speed possible, with the least harm to no harm really done, right? And since identifying the people who should embrace it can be fairly challenging at times, I wanted to provide some real life examples of the types of people and businesses that have gone through the program and why it's been a good fit. Because it's, again, I don't want you to get caught in your head and disqualify yourself, erroneously qualify yourself. Listen, you'll find that we have all of the resources needed to help you make that decision. But the bigger thing is small businesses are just in queue. They're waiting. They are in need of people who understand how can I take my marketing and automate it? How can I take my sales and automate it? They're ready, yet they're not met with professionals in the marketplace ready to take them to that next level with automation. All right. So as I mentioned, some quick past episodes, I have touched on this in a variety of ways. This one is going to be a little different. But if you want some backdrop, in episode 70, I talked about the difference between digital marketing and marketing automation. And what I noted was that there are some people who are great digital marketers, but aren't going to do as well as a marketing automation professional because it's a different type of brain. Digital marketing deals with the landing pages, sales pages, checkout pages, emails. Digital marketing is the front end of marketing. It's what a contact or a user or a person experiences. It's what they engage with, where automation is the back end. It's the back end operations controlling what you engage with. So some people just like to control that front end of marketing. They don't care about the back end operations of marketing. Those who have the ability to go to the back end, that's where the automation takes place, right? So that's one differentiator right there. Do you want to stay front end? Do you want to go back end? Do you want to go full stack marketing? If so, that's a good indicator. Marketing, becoming an automation service provider may be the next step. Then in episode 29, I talked about what is an automation service provider. So I defined it there. If you want to know that definition, just go listen to that episode in its entirety. The long and short of it is an automation service provider is a digital marketing professional that has decided, hey, I want to provide the service of automation. I either want to add it to my existing business, or this is what I want to do for a living. Okay, that is an automation service provider. They navigate between marketing strategy and marketing technology and make sure the two are perfectly aligned in the systems that they build. In episode 30, I talked about the single quality of a great automation service provider. I'm not going to give you that single quality because I want you to go listen to it. Okay. In episode 27, I talked about the skill of assessing technology, which you cannot exist in the space of automation, marketing automation, without the ability of assessing technology. You can't access technology unless you are constantly exposed to all of the technology, the pros and the cons, the use cases. This is why the Automation Bridge community exists, so that we can stay in the know with all of the technology, because every business has a stack specific to how they want to operate. And if we're pigeonholed or just tied to one particular tool or one way of doing things, we rob the market of what they really need. All right. All of those episodes will provide insight on what an automation service provider is and give you a good understanding if you should even consider being one, which is the point, again, of this episode. And let me just get into the meat of it. And what I'm going to do first is break down the specific industries and people in them that make for great automation service providers. And this is in no particular order. And I'm doing this by experience. I have countless people who have gone through my program. Some have excelled, some have not. And I have made note of each type of person, their industry and their personality type. All right. So let's start with industries that I've seen work really well. And I'll tell you why. Virtual assistants, again, in no particular order. I'm starting with virtual assistants. That does not mean that they're the greatest, right? But why are virtual assistants good candidates? Because they, by default, the definition of an assistant is to assist, right? And a lot of times, things have really changed for virtual assistants. It used to be very much admin based, but now you've got a variety. Even in virtual assistants, there's now categories. There's like a virtual marketing assistant, a virtual this assistant, like they're carving out even more categories within it. But a virtual assistant is somebody who essentially is assisting a business in a variety of ways in multiple areas in their business. And oftentimes it is with marketing. And what I found is that I'll be working with certain companies and they'll introduce me to their VA and I'll have to say, like, wait a minute, your VA is sharp. Like, this is above average here, right? Like, you have somebody that can really go to the next level. So not every virtual assistant will get into some of the personality traits, but virtual assistants do. They're good candidates. I did not say they by default, because you're a virtual assistant, you should become an automation service provider. I believe adding the skill of automation as a virtual assistant will immediately increase your value and allow you to be able to charge more. Excuse me. And the reason why I say this is because I've also engaged with a variety of virtual assistant agencies that have tiers, like tier 1 virtual assistant, tier 2, tier 3. In the top tier, what is the most common factor is automation. Like tier 2 would be like, they'll build out landing pages and send out emails. That's digital marketing. But tier 3 is like, they'll do your active campaign, your HubSpot, your Keep, your Entreport. It goes into marketing automation. They know this. All the virtual assistants listening, they know this, right? So extreme value. Second, online business managers. Now, this is probably more optional than virtual assistants because an online business manager doesn't necessarily have to work in the process more so than managing the process and defining the process. But what you'll find is a gem. You'll find a gem every now and then of that online business manager that can do automation. And I have to say, I've been privileged and blessed to find one. And I tell you what, I'm not trying to dictate or determine the definition of an online business manager, but your life is much easier when you've got an online business manager that can handle the technical understanding, strategy, and technology that goes into automation. Now, should they become an automation service provider? Maybe. It depends on that online business manager. They may just want to stay at the top level process, and maybe they just know enough to be dangerous. But if they can, if you see potential there where they're just like, look, I can build out this system and then I can go find the people to run it too. Listen, you're in the game. Okay. Now, the bread and butter. Come on. Digital marketers. This is like the no-brainer, right? So you would think. It's not. Because what digital marketers think, let me be honest here, okay? It's my podcast, no filter. A lot of digital marketers are full of themselves. They think they're greater than what they really are. There's no other way to say it. They think that because they can build a landing page or duplicate a ClickFunnels sales funnel or build something in Lead Pages or Groovy Funnels, you name the funnel building, Kartra, they feel like they've arrived. They feel like that's it. And don't let it make some money. They're like, oh yeah, this is what you do. And then they just go online and just do the same thing over and over and over again. Is there anything wrong with that? No. There's nothing wrong with that, except it's gonna come to a point where your digital marketing efforts don't scale because you either need more data or you need more automation. And automation helps you get more data. So all roads lead to automation when it comes time to scale. So this is why you hear me say we teach digital marketers how to do marketing and sales automation. We teach that to them because digital marketing just requires the basic, an email autoresponder, some integration. You've got a sales funnel up that can make money and just focus on optimizing conversion rates, copy, things of that matter. Front end optimization is a thing. Front end conversion is an entire profession. My thing is understand your limitations. Understand as a digital marketer, you're not a marketing automation specialist. It takes a different skill set. We need to know different technology. We need to be able to build more complex back-end systems. So digital marketers are great candidates because, again, once coupled, that front end ability with the back end operations and automation, oh, you're in the game. You're in the game. Okay. These are some of the most profitable and successful use cases I've had is with the digital marketer. Okay. But it's when they acknowledge that digital marketing isn't enough. It's just the beginning. All right. Next, web developers. If I can, if I had a secondary mission outside of just like digital marketers, it really would be web developers because by default, the web developer is in the back end. They're in the back end of your system already. So it's so complementary for them to be able to just add the service of automation to their existing service offerings and immediately increase their monthly revenue by 5 figures, right? It's like a easy additive function. And it's such a good compliment because they're already in the back end of your website. They're already familiar with the back end operations, and a web developer is already tech. They're already techie by default. Now, what's the challenge? Let's be honest. The reason why they're a candidate and not a shoo-in is because they're often techie, and they very rarely possess the marketing strategy or marketing acumen required to truly be an automation service provider, right at a high level, to provide the service of automation at a high level. Okay. So they could become an automation service provider if they want to grow, right? Strategically. In I shouldn't say grow strategically. I should say grow in the area of strategic marketing. Okay. And lastly, come on now. I would be hypocritical not to mention this. Engineers. That was me, an engineer. In fact, I was an engineer to a web developer, to a digital marketer, to an automation service provider. That was my progression. If somebody would have caught me from engineering and had a path straight to automation service provider, I probably would have taken that path. I really would have. Now, I'm glad I went through web development so I knew how website technology worked. I'm glad I went through digital marketing to learn that. There are definitely skills that served me extremely well. But let me tell you, I am biased to all the way. Like, if there is a bias meter, this thing is off the charts for this statement that I'm about to make. I do believe engineers make some of the best automation service providers. I do. And again, I'm biased because I am one, but it's something about our engineering mind that reverse engineers, breaks things down, always tinkering, always asking why, always getting into the nitty gritty. You need it. You need that. And if you have somebody like that on your team that knows how to do automation, listen, the sky is the limit. I have been that for multiple startups, and the sky has been the limit. Okay. So those are the top industries. And again, this is from my experience. I'm not reading any blog. I'm not surveying the marketplace. I'm talking about the people I've witnessed with my own eyes, spoken to with my own mouth, seen on my own Zoom calls, go through my program with high levels of success. These are the industries. So if you resonate with any of them, or any of these industries that I've mentioned, now is the time to really start to consider getting into one of our automation packages. Because again, if you fit these industries, you're a strong candidate. But we don't know yet. We don't know just yet, and we'll get into that. But if you want to check, listen, I'm not going to make you wait until the end of the episode. But if you want to check, if you just want to do a quick check and say, hey, look, let me see if I would be a good fit. We've got probably the most simple assessment tool to help you identify that. It takes literally less than 2 minutes, and it will spit out an honest response to you and say, hey, look, you should do this. If you want to go and check that out, you can go to automationbridge.com/check. automationbridge.com/check. All right. Now back to the show here. Within these industries, you'll also find the following personality traits. So we've got the industries that put you as a candidate, right? But then let's look at the personality traits here. Okay. And I'm just going to go over the traits that you really want to look for in a person. Someone who's analytical and highly detailed, right? I mean, I'm not talking about just catching typos. They're the type of person that'll click a link and be like, hey, your link's broke. Oftentimes you can identify these people from email. You'll send an email out and they'll be like, hey, I think you misspelled a word. Or they'll be like, hey, I think this link should go somewhere else, because when I click it, it takes me here. You're like, oh my gosh. And then you go tell your team, right? Like, we've got to update these links. Or they're the ones that catches, hey, you're using a merge tag and you don't have data, so it's blank. Or, hey, your merge tag is not populating correctly. They know the term And they know exactly what went wrong, and they'll tell you as a subscriber, right? Internal to your team, they're the ones that's all. You may cringe a bit when they talk, because they're about to bring something to your awareness that should have been caught or should have been done. And now you're battling, showing a little frustration, and so you want that. They're often introverted. This is a quality of that techie, analytical, nerdy brain, is that they often find themselves in deep thought, deep tasks, deep functioning in life that often requires them putting on headphones and just zoning out. It is what it is. It's just like a lot of sales professionals are extroverted because they've got to be outgoing in front of people, shaking hands, kissing babies, things of that nature, right? Okay. And they're extremely loyal. Once, there are certain personality types that once you encourage and enable them to operate how they truly desire, they're not going anywhere at all. Some of you may have these type of people on your team. And if you are identifying these traits, you need to couple them with not just the program to teach them automation, my program, but also the community. They need community. These people need community. I've got a community full of them where they can feel right at home with their introverted, loyal, and analytical selves, right? They're also process driven. That you talk about big ideas and they're always like, okay, well, here's the first thing, then this, and that, right? They're always talking about the steps to get things done. They want to see maps. Hey, you show them a flow chart. They're like, oh my gosh, what is this? This is so beautiful, because it's process, right? Things have to make sense and be connected. If it's disjointed, it throws them off. They're like, but wait a minute, where do they go next? You're like, I don't know, just build it. I can't just build it. I need to know, right? Like, that's what's going on. Okay. And lastly, they value efficiency. This is big because remember, in the previous podcast, we talked about effectiveness versus efficiency. And you could be effective and profitable. Somebody with the personality trait that's high on efficiency is who you want. They're the type of people that are going to be like, do we really need this tool? We've got like 3 tools doing the same thing. Can we just consolidate? Right? Do we really need this step? Can we just take them here? Right now, remember, all of these traits need to be tamed with strategy. You can't just let them go free and then they're just techie and pointing out stuff that's broken and trying to get rid of tools and just fix stuff, right? They need to be contained with some strategy. And of course, they need community to help them navigate in the business realm effectively, right? But these are the traits that you're looking for in these industries. So we've got the industries, a virtual assistant, online business manager, digital marketer, web developers, and engineers. And then within those industries, we're looking for people who are analytical and highly detailed, often introverted. They're extremely loyal. They're process driven, and they value efficiency. Okay. That's what we're looking for. Now, of course, per last episode, there are some that, or I said per last episode, per what I mentioned in this episode, there are some that need to stay far away. Okay. You don't even need to consider. All right. And I had to be a straight shooter on this one because, respectfully, you need to sit down. Okay. Sit down and let somebody else in this space for you. All right. One is the traditional CEO. This is the big picture. They see it all the possibilities, right? But they're overwhelmed by tech and they really need to be focused on either hiring somebody to do it or growing their business to the point where they can bring, if you can't hire somebody now, they need to grow it to the point where they can. Okay. So there are some basic technical things that you can do as a traditional CEO. Do those basic things, get that foundation in place. I call it the profit pathway. Get that in place and then immediately get you a digital marketer that you can grow with. And by grow means they can transition from digital marketing to automation service provider. Okay. Now, if you are a CEO and you have a marketer, you absolutely should send your marketer to our program and let us do the training for you. That is what you really need to do. And we also have, for those CEOs that reach out, we have an assessment. And this is a thorough assessment, everybody, that we will have your marketer go through. If you say, hey, look, Chris, train my marketer. I don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the capacity, and I don't have the know-how. If you're telling me in 6 months you can get them up to speed, here you go, hands off. And during that 6 months, you'll be producing results for me. Take them here. So naturally, you'd be like, yeah, sure, send them over. But first, we'll assess them. We've got a thorough assessment, and we'll just tell you, hey, look, I know you like them as a marketer. We don't think they'll be the best fit to be an automation service provider for your company. We'll just be honest with you, right? So that's traditional CEOs, sales professionals. Sales professionals, they're not good for this. They need to stay far away from this type of work. And here's the reason: they often don't have the focus or desire to go deep. Right? What I've learned with techie salespeople is they want to do just enough to get something in place so that they can go make more sales. That's it. It's a checkbox. It's like, hey, need an automated system? I'm techie here. Let me go figure out how to build this automated system. Okay, don't need that. Don't need this. Don't need that. Got it. Okay, goodbye. They're in and they're out. Now, some of you may be like, what's wrong with that? Take the money. That's not the community that I'm building. I need people who are going to be in and stay in. Add value, continue to grow with one another. I can't tell you in our weekly office hours calls for everybody that's gone through the automation service provider program, we talk about so many strategies, technologies, just everything to keep you in the know. There's nobody in any connected to me in that capacity that is not the most savvy in any form of technology. Right? Because they didn't just get what they need and leave. They stayed in it. Now, the sales professionals, they won't admit it. They won't. But they're the ones I've had the most struggle with. Right? They don't do the deep thinking. They don't do the deep work. They do just enough. Right? Okay. And the third group of people are beginners that don't know what they want to do. Right? They should start with digital marketing. Like digital marketer, I don't know what the cost is, but they've got a low cost monthly fee. You can go there, start learning about Facebook ads, email marketing. You can do all kind of stuff and just play around and figure out if this is something that you want to do. But I don't have a program to help you identify that. I don't have a means of growing you up in that capacity. You already have to have some chops or be operating at some capacity. Okay. So last layer, everybody, last layer. Okay. So we got the traditional CEO needs to stay away, the sales professionals and the beginners, stay away. I would throw like analytical folks, like in terms of advertising, because they often love numbers, but don't like to build systems. You could put them in the should not do, but every now and then you get one that's like, hey, look, I could do that too. So it's tough, right? So among these types of professionals, you'll also find their personality traits. The traditional CEO, sales professional, beginner. Again, big vision, ideas for days, would rather come up with more than stick with one. We know these people. They're extroverted. They love to talk to people and be in the forefront. These are often your sales professional. They're not detail oriented or organized at all. Okay, every file has a different name. There's no folders. They just create on the fly. They produce masses of everything they produce. They're just writing content. They're just going live every day. There's no structure or order to what they do, right? And then two is they're easily bored or bogged down with the process or anything that causes them to sit still and think critically or analytically. They start yawning. It's like they got so much energy talking about their ideas. And then when you move into the process and really start walking them through what it takes, they're like, oh, they don't mean to though, right? It's just like you've activated a different part of their brain that is now exhausting them because they don't need energy to operate in their natural. But when you start talking techie, process oriented, you see it. They want to tap out. They do. They want to tap out. So this is more important for you to listen to this and self-identify this episode, okay? Because the market needs those who can provide this service of automation in excellence. This is why we exist. I took the time to really sit and think through the personality types, the type of industries, again, from my personal experience when I've seen people go and generate the revenue, grow the business for themselves or their clients. So all of this is true from the battlefield, my battlefield. Okay. I've done all of this because I want you to know that if you are listening and some of these traits I listed off, you're like, that's me, that's me, that's me. Don't wait. Don't disqualify yourself and don't try to figure it out. We've created a tool to help you identify if you should consider becoming an automation service provider or not. It just asks some brief questions and provides an honest answer on whether or not you should proceed. If you should proceed, we'll jump on a call and just verify some things and we'll get started immediately. But again, I don't want you all to make automation service provider bigger than what it is. You don't have to be, I need to have been generated $20,000 a week in my digital marketing before I can do that. No, the program is what helps you get there. Okay. And if you are in any way using a platform like Entrepreneur, Key, Active Campaign, right, for your clients, you need to highly consider this. Now, if you do that and you realize that you're on the list of people who should not do it, you've got some reassessing to do in your business. You really do. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. So if you want to access this tool, this assessment that does the checking for you, again, it doesn't take long. It's just a few questions that we ask, and then we route you to the appropriate resource. That is at automationbridge.com/check, CHECK, check. Okay. automationbridge.com/check will do all of the thinking for you. If you listen to this podcast and you're like, I think I would be a good one, let me check. That alone is part of the qualification process. Okay. So we've got you covered. And what I want you to do is share this with your local digital marketer, virtual assistant, web developer, online business manager, or engineer. Share this with them. Okay. Because this may be the explanation that they needed to solve a problem that they've been trying to solve in terms of where do I go? How do I what's the next step for me in my business? How do I make a bigger impact? This may be the step that they're missing. So make sure you do me a favor and share this episode with them. If you found value in today's episode, now is the time, if you're not subscribed, to subscribe, leave a 5-star rating and review. I want to thank you in advance for it, because I know some of you listening are just like, oh my God, this is right. This is exactly what I needed. It is. And all that I'm asking for in return is a subscribe and a 5-star rating and review. That's it. Here at Automation Bridge, if you can't tell, we're dedicated to training digital marketing professionals to become automation service provider. It's my life's work. Small businesses, they need it. They need systems built out, back-end systems, automated, functioning at high levels of efficiency, helping them be lean, but show up like a large enterprise, right? They need somebody who can take marketing strategy and technology, put it together, and deploy automated systems for rapid growth. That's what's required, and that's what's needed. That's why this episode was recorded today. All right. Now, we've made it easy for you to get access to everything that you need. I know I've given you the URL to go and do a quick check. And if everything works out, you can schedule some time with myself and my team. We've got that. But there's one, if you ever forget anything, just don't forget this URL. It gets you access to everything. And that's allsystemsgopodcast.com. And this will get you access to the latest episodes, our Amplify My Automation package, which is the automation service provider program, is part of that. And it's geared to help you put automated marketing and sales systems in your business over the next 6 months. Our free Facebook group, You can request to be on the podcast or refer a guest to the podcast, and any resource or training that I've mentioned on the podcast. One URL to remember gets you access to it all. And that's allsystemsgopodcast.com. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. And until next time, I see you online. Automate responsibly, my friends.